Hotel staff are finally talking, and what they confessed will shock you.
Luxury suites hide more than comfort. They hide secrets money cannot buy.
Hotel staff, hot confessions. What really happens after midnight in luxury suites. I've been working in luxury hotels for more than 10 years, and I've seen everything that happens after midnight. When the lobby gets quiet and the lights go dim, the real stories begin. Guests stop pretending, staff stop smiling. What is left are people and their hidden sides. My job was to make sure everything ran smoothly, but no one ever told me how much I would learn about human desire, power, and secrets that money cannot hide. At first, I thought it was just a job, opening doors, arranging transportation, sending champagne to rooms. I told myself that I was only an observer, that whatever happened behind those doors was none of my business. But the longer you work as a concierge in a luxury hotel, the harder it is to stay detached. Because when a billionaire's wife calls at 2 in the morning asking for a private massage therapist, or a famous actor insists that no staff enter his suite for 24 hours, curiosity wins. If you are watching this, let me know where you are from and on which device you are watching. I'm always curious to see who listens to stories like this. Thank you for being here. Now let me tell you what really happens when the elevators stop running and the cameras turn to blind spots. The first thing you learn is that silence is currency. The higher the price of a room, the darker the secrets that live inside it. I remember a man who booked an entire floor for one night. He came with no luggage, no companion, just a single black briefcase. He told me not to let anyone near his suite, not even cleaning staff. Around midnight, 2 women arrived. They wore masks, real ones like from a Venetian ball. They never spoke a word to me, just followed him inside. The next morning, the room smelled like expensive perfume and burnt wax. On the table, there was a handwritten note. "Thank you for not asking." There was also a tip, $10,000 in cash. That was the first time I understood what kind of world I had entered. From that night on, every whisper, every request after midnight carried a price. Sometimes it was harmless. Lonely businessmen asking for company, celebrities wanting a quiet dinner without paparazzi. But other times, it was disturbing. There was one guest, a regular who came every month, always booked the same suite. He asked for a bottle of red wine, a pack of cigarettes, and a woman who looked exactly like his ex-wife. I never asked how he found them. I just knew that the next morning, the cleaning staff always complained about mirrors being covered with towels and the bed left untouched. Working in a luxury hotel teaches you that morality is flexible. You start to justify things. You tell yourself that you are not responsible for what people do, that you only provide service. But deep down, you know that by keeping their secrets, you become part of them. I once had a guest, a well-known politician, who requested a suite with a private elevator. He arrived with his bodyguards and a woman who was definitely not his wife. Before they entered, he looked me in the eye and said, "If anyone asks, I was never here." Later that night, I saw him in the bar, arguing on the phone, whispering furiously. The next morning, he left before sunrise. 2 days later, the woman appeared at the reception alone. Her face was pale, and she asked if we could retrieve her necklace from the suite. The security team went up. The necklace was there, but so was a broken wine glass, a stain on the carpet, and a phone with no SIM card. That was when I started keeping notes. Not for blackmail, not for money, but because I wanted to remember what this job does to people, and to me. Every luxury hotel has its unofficial rules. One of them is that whatever happens after midnight never reaches the morning shift. Another is that guests are always right, even when they are monsters. There was one night I will never forget. A famous singer was staying in our penthouse suite. She called me personally asking for help with a private event. When I arrived, she was sitting on the floor, surrounded by candles, holding a glass of champagne. Around her were 6 people. Models, musicians, a photographer I recognized from magazines. She said, "You're going to stay outside. No one comes in until I say. The music started. Low, slow, rhythmic. The lights flickered. The next morning, when housekeeping entered, every mirror in the suite was shattered. The guest had already checked out. After that, I stopped believing that hotels are places of rest. They are theaters. People check in to play roles they cannot play in real life. The receptionist becomes their silent audience, the bellboy their assistant, and I, the concierge, their confessor. Once, a guest handed me his wedding ring before heading upstairs with another woman. He smiled and said, "Hold this for me. I do not want to lose it tonight." He never came back for it. 2 weeks later, his wife arrived with the same ring around her neck. She kissed my hand and thanked me for being discreet. There were also times when I crossed my own lines. When you spend enough nights among sin and luxury, temptation stops being shocking. It becomes routine. I had a relationship with a guest once. She was married, rich and lonely. We met every few weeks when her husband traveled. She said I made her feel invisible, in a good way. I told myself it was harmless. But one night, her husband checked in unexpectedly. He requested a key to her suite, claiming it was a surprise. I still remember the look in his eyes when he opened that door. He did not shout. He just looked at me and said, "You should have known better." He was right. From that moment, I realized there is a line between observing and participating, and once you cross it, there is no going back. Another memory that still keeps me awake is from a stormy night. A guest from the Middle East had booked one of the royal suites. He arrived with 3 assistants and a small cage covered with silk. When they left 2 days later, the cage was empty and the suite smelled like incense and something metallic. Housekeeping found feathers in the bathroom sink. They asked me what had happened. I said nothing. Sometimes silence is the only way to survive in this job. You might think this all sounds like fiction, but I promise you, reality inside luxury hotels is stranger than anything you could imagine. One evening, I received a call from the 12th floor. A woman's voice whispered, "Please, send someone. He will not wake up." I rushed upstairs with security. The suite was dark, only the TV light flickering. A man was lying on the couch, pale and motionless. The woman stood by the window in a silk robe, smoking. She said he had been fine an hour ago. When we called the paramedics, she just looked at me and said, "Make sure this never reaches the papers." By the time the ambulance left, she had disappeared. Her name was never found in our records. The suite was paid in cash. After that night, I stopped thinking of myself as a concierge. I was a witness, a keeper of stories that no one should carry, but there was one final story that ended everything for me. A man checked in around midnight, alone, wearing a dark suit. His reservation was under a name I recognized, a known CEO, famous for his charity work and clean reputation. He asked for absolute privacy. Around 2 in the morning, he called me from his suite. His voice was calm, polite. "Can you bring me a bottle of whiskey and a single rose?" When I arrived, the door was slightly open. Inside, the lights were dim. He was sitting at the desk, staring at a photograph. He said, "Leave the drink and take the envelope on the table." I did. It was thick, sealed, heavy. He said, "You will understand in the morning." When I came back at 7, the police were already there. He had jumped from the balcony. In his note, he wrote one line, "I thought the world would forgive me." The envelope he gave me contained a list of names, powerful people, guests I had served for years. There were photographs, bank statements, everything. It was the kind of file that could destroy lives. I burned it, because after all those years, I finally realized the truth. In luxury hotels, everyone hides something. Guests, staff, even me. The walls are not made of marble and glass. They are made of secrets, and secrets are the real currency that keeps these places alive. That was my last night as a concierge. I left the next morning without saying a word. Sometimes, when I walk past a hotel, I still look at the glowing windows and wonder what is happening behind them. Maybe another man is sitting where I once stood, answering midnight calls, pretending not to know. If you ever stay in a luxury hotel and notice that the concierge avoids eye contact, now you know why. He probably knows too much. Because after midnight, hotels stop being places of comfort. They become confession rooms for the rich, the lost, and the guilty. And someone like me always listens.